All right, YouTube. Um, Welcome back to my channel. My name is Remy, IT professional. Um, you know, Same spiel I gave in my last video, but today we're back with part two. Shout out to those who watched video one, part one, my first ever YouTube video. Actually, pretty surprised at how many people it reached. So shout out to everybody who watched, everybody who gave a like, subscribed, commented. I really appreciate you guys. And shout out to those who commented about Talos Linux in the comments. Definitely going to try that out in a future video. Currently, I am using Debian, and I didn't specify that last video. Using Debian 13. So we're just going to keep it that way for now, but definitely going to try out Talos Linux in the future, in a future video. I think once we're a little deeper into the Homelab and we got a lot of things set up to kind of mix it up and try out something new, we'll probably throw Talos in there, make some cool videos about that. So definitely got some video ideas for the future. But yeah, appreciate you guys for sticking through part two. Today we are going over my Ansible setup and configuration. Pretty much I use Ansible to automate setting up K3s, which is the flavor of Kubernetes I chose, setting that up on my control node PC and joining my other PC, my worker node, to that cluster. So it's actually pretty cool the things that you can do with Ansible. Ansible is actually capable of doing a lot of interesting things, and um, you know, makes things a lot easier than having to do it by hand. And part of being able to tear down this Homelab and set up another one from scratch is using stuff like Ansible. So I would be able to do this, like literally just uninstall K3s from my control and worker node and just set it back up by running this playbook. But yeah, pretty much it's pretty simple what I have. Nothing crazy. I have actually before I show the actual playbook, I want to go in my Notion and go into some of the notes that I have. So I took quite a few notes on stuff that I was running into. First error, first issue, I guess you can say, was that my playbook was silently failing because of a DNS resolution error, but I didn't know that's what it was. So basically, I couldn't run the install script, and Ansible doesn't really show those errors. There is ways to kind of see what's going on behind the scenes through Ansible, but just by running your playbook default, you won't see this. So this is something I had to like play around with, just troubleshooting for a few hours. Found out that when I went on my actual when I SSH'd into my actual control node that I couldn't reach something like github.com. I couldn't curl the URL. So obviously I wouldn't be able to run the install script. And not sure why this is not loading, but this was a helpful documentation on making sure that I had my DNS resolution resolved, and I had to use the resolve.conf file and add a few lines in there. So that's kind of what I did. So that was pretty helpful, this doc. I'm not sure why it's not loading, but I think I can click like view original. Yeah. So mastering resolve.conf and Linux comprehensive guide. So this pretty much is plays like a vital role, as it says, in your DNS resolution process. Translates human readable domain names like google.com, or in my case, github.com, into IP addresses. So yeah, I just had to make sure this was set up properly, pretty much like this, but with my actual DNS name server. And my first one was, something else, and then my second one was this. So yeah, so that was actually pretty helpful getting that set up. Then another issue I ran into was this particular error message right here. So initially I was using password-based authentication to reach my servers, and to do this you have to install something like SSH pass on them. Didn't want to do this, and I was trying to figure out what a better method of doing this, and through some research I found out that using key pair values with the SSH authentication is a better method to using password based, for a number of different reasons, security reasons, just easier automations like this. You don't have to enter a password each time, certain things like that. You can look it up if you want to know like what's all the details of that. But pretty much, I have some notes in here for me and for you guys watching. But the way I like to think of SSH key pair is the public key is pretty much like a lock. Like if you were to buy an actual lock, and your private key would be, you know, the key to open the lock. So that's kind of how I like to think about it. Basically, I generated this on my local machine that I'm using currently, and then on my actual server, I just copied over the public key. So basically, the way I like to think about it is I transfer the lock, the public key, or copy it, I transfer to the remote server / servers, because I had two in this case, where I would use the key, the private key, to access. So it's basically saying, like, you know, from my local machine, I can access the remote server using this private key, because the public key exists on there, says it needs a private key to access, and I have the private key on this machine. So I hope that makes sense. And yeah, I had to copy this on both of my machines so that I'll be able to access both of them. And then from there, I had to update some of the host variables that I have in my host variable files. So right now I have it encrypted using Ansible Vault, which is also a neat feature of Ansible. So if you want a little bit more security, use Ansible Vault. It's highly helpful. And this is what you would see if you go to my GitHub. You wouldn't see my actual variables that I have in here. So I just had to edit. There's a way you can edit this by just running like Ansible -vault space edit space, you know, your file name, enter the password, and you'll be able to edit the actual values in here. This is just the encrypted hash that you're seeing here. But yeah, I was able to edit these values in here, and then just update my playbook. So yeah, that's basically what I did there. And I have some Stack Overflow posts that I use to figure out how I need to change my variables around and stuff, because this is my pretty much one of my first. I've used Ansible in the past, not too much, but yeah, this was like my first real in-depth work with it, I guess you could say, if this is even in-depth enough. But you know, use that. And then the third issue was I actually made it through most of my playbook until I got to the part where I needed to install K3s on the worker node. That kind of suffered, and it was hanging, meaning there weren't no errors being shown, but it was just taking a long time to complete the task. So I booted up, remoted into the worker server, checked it, which the server is called Ghost. And the reason I'm saying that is because when I ran this command, which is journalctl, is a way to see like logs, and specific to the K3s agent, which this node is, check that and notice that the host name, there was an error or something about the host name. It couldn't really verify the host because of the host names. And that happened because the worker and the control node both shared the same host name. So I didn't know this was a problem, but I just found out through this. So what I did was change the host name of my control node. And the reason I didn't change the worker node is because if you remember from last video, my worker node is called Motoko, and the host name is Ghost. And it's an anime Ghost in the Shell. Motoko's one of the characters. So I kept that. My other host, or my other node, is the control node. The user is Baki. So I changed the host name on that to Hanma. So now it's I guess easier to refer to the different nodes instead of control node, worker node. It's like I got Hanma, control node, and then I got Ghost, which is the worker node. So yeah. So basically after that, it was able to run pretty good, and had to do some other things like so I had to keep running my playbook with something like this, which you might see often online, specifying an inventory file. And I did something a little different. I set up this file called ansible.cfg. And what this does is it says, these are going to be global variables that you define, and you don't have to specify these going forward. So when I'm running CLI commands, or when I am running against some of my host variables, I could say, hey, look here for these default values, look here for some inventory specific plugins, and apply this to everything, every CLI command, pretty much. So instead of having to specify the inventory file each time, I don't have to do that anymore. I could just say Ansible playbook and then refer to my playbook. So that kind of solved that. And then also adding this SSH key, instead of putting this in both of my host variable files, just specify it here and I'm good. And you can see how this gets helpful at a larger scale. Currently I have a 2 node cluster, so a lot of this stuff is not needed. But if I wanted to in the future, or if I want to in the future, try virtual machines, maybe running Proxmox instead and running a ton of virtual machines and trying out something like Talos, you can see how stuff like this will be helpful. Just being able to specify some things like this. So yeah, pretty much that's what I did, and I'll show you the playbook now. And it's pretty simple. Ansible playbook is pretty much a way of defining a number of tasks that are going to run, and Ansible is going to run these in order. And yeah, that's kind of how it automates everything. This is just like, this is where stuff happens. All this other stuff was kind of defining things that this playbook is going to use. So as you can see, the first one is kind of just setting up K3s on the master. So this is just the installation command. There's a helpful playbook built-in shell option. This is how you run some neat commands. And then you'll do something like become true to say, hey, this command needs to be run as sudo. So sudo meaning, you know, like root user, higher permission user. So it needs like, you know, your password and things of that nature, which I specify in my inventory file. So yeah, you can see how Ansible makes it pretty easy to just refer to things. And here I created a kube directory. Basically, what I noticed when I first did this without these 2 commands in specific, or these 3. So before I didn't have these 3, I ran it, everything worked. But when I went on to my control node, I had to run sudo kubectl to see anything on there. And it's kind of annoying to have to constantly run sudo with any kubectl command. So anytime I want to interact with my cluster, I have to sudo and enter my password. So I did some research online and found out, you know, if you copy your kube config from the, you know, wherever the default location is when you install, which will be in the Etch Rancher K3s, copy this YAML file over to your home directory and give it the proper permissions, then you don't have to actually run sudo anymore. So that's basically what this is saying. So creating that, copying it over, and then you have to set the kubeconfig environment variable. So your kubectl knows to look into your home directory instead of the one here. So these 3 are actually really important. And then I grabbed the node token because I'm going to need that to use when I install on the worker node. And I register, meaning I save this as a variable. And then that variable is within this task. And then I say store the node token. So set fact, meaning create a variable that I can use globally in any type of task. So as you see, these are indented, but yeah, this is the topmost task. And then these are basically all tasks within this one task. So these are all run. It will store this node token. So it'll grab the node token encoded, and there's a specific, I believe it's like an array. So the specific part that I need is in the content, you know, key, I guess, if you would call it, if it's like a dictionary, like the content key. And then it's base 64 encoded, so I need to decode it and then trim it. So this removes some of those white spaces in it. And then I store that into node token. And then I'm going to run this new task right here. So that's task 1, uppermost task 1. This is task 2, if you will. Then I'm going to join to the worker node. So I'm going to grab the host, which is here. And if you could see, so my, these are the group names, K3s master, K3s worker, and they point to the files in this host variable folder. Yeah, so it pretty much just says, hey, go into this, you know, go into this server now and install the K3s worker. And it's going to run this script right here. And when you want to join a node to, you know, to your cluster, you have to run this script, and you have to specify the IP address of your host variable. So this says, you know, in my host vars control node, and this is the actual variable name in there that has the IP address. And you pass the K3s token, which, you know, we got from here, which is node token, and it's already decoded. So control node, then node token. And yeah, run that as a shell command. become true, run it as sudo. All those things run successfully. I believe I can run it again without any issues, I want to say. And if you're wondering, I'm using WSL for Windows, so I'm not able to use like Linux. You can't run Ansible on Windows, so I have to use WSL. But yeah, so if I do something like cd dev into my Homelab folder, I'm just gonna switch to the main branch, and then I'm gonna go into Ansible. You can see all my stuff there, and it should have some of my old commits, so I don't have to type this out. Actually, no, it doesn't. Okay, so basically I could just run like Ansible playbook, and then like the path to it, Ansible playbooks, and then K3s. Oh, there we go. Yep, auto-filled it. And then what you need to do is, like in my notes I have here, axe false vault password. And this is just so it can grab everything from that I have encrypted using Vault. So I'm just gonna run it. I don't think there's any harm in running this over, even though it worked already. But I guess we'll find out together. So saying no inventory was parsed. I think I entered the password wrong. Okay. Not sure why it says no inventory is parsed, but yeah, no errors. So these are all the tasks that ran. And you know, if I come into here, yeah, basically, if I come in here and just do like kubectl get node, you can see that I'm on Hanma, which is my control node, control pane. It's ready. It's been up for 40 minutes. This is the version of K3s I'm running, which I believe is the most up-to-date stable version. I think there's something I can do in my Ansible playbook to specify the version that might be smart to do. But yeah, then I have Ghost, which is the worker node. By default, it doesn't include a role, so maybe this is something I can change. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to go into. Kind of did like just a quick overview. I didn't want this video to be too long. I just wanted to walk through some of the stuff I have. And if you want me to do like, I guess, a more detailed video and kind of go through all my notes and get a little bit more detailed into what I did, I can do that. But yeah, it's pretty much it. Shout out to you guys. I think what's next, we're gonna try installing some applications. So maybe running something like Grafana and Prometheus, I think, to just monitor the health of the environment or the cluster. Maybe that's next. Maybe we can do something even cooler, install some cooler apps. We'll we'll see. I guess stay tuned for the next video. May actually may run a AI model locally. So I think that would be kind of cool to run a LLM and kind of see how that works. I don't have these many PCs, don't have good graphics cards, so but yeah, that's it for this video. Shout out to you guys. Please like the video, comment, subscribe, turn on noties, do all that cool stuff. We finally have a cluster set up, which is cool. It's pretty cool. So we're gonna definitely install some applications, and if you guys have any tips, anything you want to see specifically, let me know in the comments. I'm down to chop it up with you guys. Might make a Discord server if we get a bunch of people to hop onto this channel. So we'll see how that goes.